we did to this bill and what I'm urging the members of this House to support. Kenyans, 14 years ago, bestowed upon themselves the right to housing. Madam Speaker, you can read that in Article 43, 1B of the Constitution, that says that it is a right for everybody to have a decent housing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, so that I can paint a clear picture, it has been in the news and all over that we have seen honorable members, not only from this House, trying to build decent houses to their constituents. Madam Speaker, without mentioning many names, I know we have seen it like Honorable Otiende Amolo, Honorable Didmas Barasa, even the AC, Senator Tom Ojienda. They have been seen online building some houses. But of course, those houses are not as decent as it should be if we were to go with the Article 43, 1B of the Constitution. That's why this bill, Madam Speaker, is bringing decency to the people, dignity to the people of Kenya, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill, when it came to the Senate, when it came to the committee, we are even we redesigned so many things. We redesigned or amended, proposed so many amendments, Madam Speaker, because we saw from the bill that was really debated at the National Assembly, it was not catering for the rural areas, Madam Speaker. And that's why we are bringing amendment that we'll be discussing going forward, Madam Speaker, that this bill will be able to build a decent house for somebody in the village who has land and all they want is a decent house, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we're even suggesting to rename the bill Rural and Urban Affordable Housing Bill, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the bill that is pulling resources together by forming this fund, Madam Speaker, and the fund is supposed to have these monies so that we can build decent houses, as I'm saying, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when we have these monies in one pool, we have, the bill is suggesting that every county will benefit. And Madam Speaker, because Article 96 of the Constitution says that we take care of the interest of the counties, we took that upon ourselves as a committee to even introduce something that was not there in the first place. That is county committees or county boards, so that they can also have a say within this affordable housing fund, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you will see going forward that every county will be having such a committee that will work closely with the national fund, Madam Speaker. As if that is not enough, Madam Speaker, we realize that this fund is collecting money from Kenyans, and these monies must also be channeled back to the counties. And we suggested, which we will be able to tell the House in the previous amendments, that some monies from this fund will have to go to the counties directly, so that every county can benefit from this fund, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we received over 29 memoranda when we told Kenyans to bring their opinions, to bring their suggestions. We received 29 memoranda. We even had to invite some stakeholders to come and appear before our committee. One of them was the Department of Housing, led by CS herself, Alice Wahome, together with the PS Hinga. We even had the Association of Architects, Madam Speaker, and they gave their views. We even had Juakali Association, Madam Speaker, and all of them, together with others, they were in support that Kenyans require and need decent housing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we looked at all those inputs that these people brought to us. Some of them we considered them. Some of them were already in the bill, Madam Speaker. And I want this House to understand that this bill, and that's why, Madam Speaker, we should always say every bill concerning counties must come to the Senate. When we looked at it, Madam Speaker, and I want to reiterate that point, and I want to repeat that point, that the fund itself somehow was working in isolation. But we had to loop in counties through the county boards, where the governors will have a say in those committees, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me explain it further. If there's a hustler somewhere, a border rider, maybe in a village where I was born, a village called Mitahato, and that person does not need a house in the urban area. They don't want to move to Nairobi. They don't want to move to Mombasa. Neither do they want to move to Kiambu town. They want to live in their area where they do their business. And maybe they have a piece of land. Maybe it's an inheritance from their fathers. Maybe they bought a piece of land. All they require is a decent house. But since they don't have money, Madam Speaker, why can't the government provide that housing for such a hustler? Madam Speaker, we have put that in this bill, that such a hustler will go to the mortgage schemes, the mortgage scheme that has been introduced by this bill, and through their voluntary saving, if they have saved, plus that title of that land they want to put up a house, they can get an affordable mortgage from the government so that they can build such a beautiful house according to their dreams, Madam Speaker, and where they belong and in the village. And how do we protect such funds from misuse, Madam Speaker? We use their savings as collateral, and we also use their land titles as collateral, Madam Speaker. With that, this bill has taken care of every Kenyan. Before, what was in the air, Madam Speaker, it seemed like we were only building houses for the urban areas, the skyscrapers, and all that, Madam Speaker. But through the amendments of this that will be brought by this committee, Madam Speaker, we will be building a house for everyone. Without taking much time, Madam Speaker, I would urge the members of this House to support this bill, because before we were saying that we were not involved. Now we are. We were saying the counties have not been looked into. We have factored that, Madam Speaker, by making those boards and also sending the funds, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill is what every Kenyan has been looking for. This bill is what even the courts said we should have, Madam Speaker. And by putting these structures together, we will be able to have or make this country a country whereby, Madam Speaker, everybody will have a decent house, everybody will have a decent home, and everybody will be able to have a house of their choice or a house of their liking, depending on the location and place where they come from. Madam Speaker, so that I can give others time, I second that this bill is read for a second time. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.